Yeah, that's when I got it or something.
Okay. We are ready to begin. Welcome to our next installment of Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We're up to chapter 11, Siman Yud Aleph, the laws of mezuzah. So I think we're probably going to have to split this over 2 weeks because there's so much to discuss about mezuzah. It's a obviously very practical mitzvah, and and there's so many areas of question of how to affix a mezuzah, which doors and which rooms are obligated in a mezuzah, which side of the doorpost do we place the mezuzah, do we make a bracha, do we not make a bracha? There's so much to mezuzah that we have to discuss. In this chapter, we have 25 seifim, 25 halachas, but we'll obviously add as we go along, different customs, and we'll try to cover as much as possible. We'll go through it tonight, and then perhaps next week we'll conclude it. I actually just recently ordered a book on the laws of mezuzah. Actually, a book in English. I think they have it in full.
Yeah, one by
And I ordered for Hetevis. It has not come yet, but I was hoping to look at that for greater detail. And then maybe we could do some examples of different rooms in the house or the things.
soft cover.
Not the one that orders a hard cover, but I'm sure there's more than one. Either way, so let's start. We always try to use the kitzur as our base. So we'll go through the kitzur. If you have any questions, obviously we can always discuss, and we will add a little bit as we go along. So let's start. Siman Yud Aleph Halacha Aleph. The laws of mezuzah. Mitzvahs asay likvoya mezuzah b'chavas. It's a positive commandment and positive mitzvah to affix a mezuzah on every doorpost, on the doorway. Even if one has numerous rooms and every room has their own doorway, which a person uses to enter and to leave the room, you have to affix a mezuzah on each of these doorposts. Even if you mainly use one room and not the other, you have to affix it on every door. So right away, there's a myth that is already clarified over here, right? What's the myth? The big myth is that the mitzvah of mezuzah only applies to the main entrance to the home. On the front door, you put a mezuzah. Oh, you're an extra religious person, so you're doing it minhag, or hiddur, or midrabanan, or something. Okay, you're adding mezuzahs to the other doorways in your home. But the mitzvah is to put up a mezuzah, as it says, in every doorway in your home, and every room needs its own mezuzah. It's a biblical mitzvah equally. Don't say your front door more than anything else. Your front door, your back door, your living room, your dining room, your bedroom, every room needs a mezuzah. That's all equal. Now, obviously, if someone comes to you and says, "Listen, I can't afford now to pay. I need 7 mezuzahs or 11 mezuzahs or 15 mezuzahs." That could be a pretty expensive mitzvah, right? I'm not ready to spend now $1,000 on mezuzahs. Okay, so you say, buy one. Hey, one is better than none, right? Buy 2, buy 5, buy as many as you could. It's not an all or nothing. But the mitzvah is to put a mezuzah on every door. Even if you are not really living in all these rooms at the time, you still have to put a mezuzah in every room. However, if there is a specific doorway which is not really used, once in a while, maybe you'll just use it for to carry something through. Sometimes you build a house, and just with the hallway or with the layout, it's kind of hard to bring in furniture, for example, right? So you'll have a door that you kind of even block. Sometimes the doors you don't even notice. It's like behind the piece of furniture. But it's just if you want to move something large, the only way to get in is through this extra door. I'm thinking, growing up in my house in Toronto, we had that. We had like one of our bedrooms was kind of a narrow hallway to get into. So you weren't even able to bring in like a mattress. or into that room. And so they had a separate door that was like kind of not really used, never used actually. It was only when you had to bring in furniture. So maybe that's what we're referring to over here. That doorway is not obligated in a mezuzah because it's not really there to use to walk in and out. It's really there to use once in a while. You have to have some type of masa, a luggage or furniture. So use it for that. So for that place would not be obligated in a mezuzah.
Is there a problem to put a mezuzah where it's not obligated? Like,
no,
I understand like a bathroom, but
we got the bathroom in a moment. But yeah, there's no problem. You could put up a mezuzah. You just don't make a problem. Yeah, and there are many areas where we say questionable. Just put it without a mezuzah. Put a mezuzah without a bra. Yeah, exactly. Okay, halacha 2. So the pasuk says, you should write on the doorpost of your home, and your gates, right? Your yard. So we see that it's not only your home; it's also specific types of doorways that are either to your yard, to a city, perhaps. And we'll learn it later in Halacha 16, more details of which doorways other than your home are obligated in a mezuzah. So where do you put it up? So which side? You always put it on the right side of the person walking in. So obviously, whichever direction you're looking at it, it's the right side, right? So which side is the right side? Going into the room. You go into the room, that the right side is the where you put the mezuzah. And it's so important that im kavah be smoiled if you accidentally or deliberately affix the mezuzah on the left side, psula. It's possible. You haven't done the mitzvah. It's that important. You have to remove it and put it on the right side, and you make another bracha. You make a new bracha because you never put the mezuzah up yet.
doesn't it have to do which way the door swing?
Oh, we get to there. So that's how to know which way is the right. But generally we say, before we get to that, when you're walking in, that is the right is where you put the mezuzah. If you put it accidentally on the left, you gotta take it down and put it on the right. And it makes no difference if you're a lefty or a righty, right? It's not a personal thing, you're right or you're left. It's the right of the entrance. Exactly. Oh. So now Yishai mentioned about something with the hinges. Where does the door open to? Open inwards, open outwards. So it's touched upon in Halacha 4. We'll see what it says in Halacha 4, and then we'll see what our minhag is. So what's the scenario in Halacha 4? So you have two homes. Each of the homes have a direct opening, direct door to the yard or to the street. However, there's also an opening to each other's homes. Here we say two homes, but the same thing could be two rooms, right? You have one house. I guess back in the day it wasn't so common. I don't know why you're saying two homes necessarily. You have two rooms that perhaps they have the door to outward, but they also have a door within indoors from each other, right? From one room to the next. So now you're telling me that it's the right of the nichnas coming in. Well, how do I come into this room? Right? There are two ways to get into this room. Right? I could go in this door or go in that door. Right? So if I have two homes, each one I come in from the outside. Now I'm in the home. If I'm going in from home 1 to home 2, I go through this opening, this door within the house. If I go from home 2 to home 1, I'm also going through this door. So I'm going either way, right? I'm thinking about this room right over here, right? How do I come into this room? Do I come in through the kitchen and go out to this room, or do I come in through this room and go into the kitchen, right? Which way is considered nichnas?
The front door determining such thing.
Oh, so let's see what it says over here, right? So this is oftentimes we have a room that has more than one entrance. So the question is, how do we determine which is the right and which is the left? So aslina basa heket here. So the halachic term over here is Heker Tzir. Tzir, I believe, means the hinges, right? Is that how it translated it? They translated it? Tzir means the...
i.e., it is dependent on the side of the door.
I know the
the
IE.
door.
What the word Tzir means? Does it
It
translate it?
hinges.
The
Yeah.
hinges. The hinges. Okay. The hinges tell us which direction you're meant to enter and exit. So basically, generally, you place the hinges on the inside of the room, right? You don't really see the hinges on the outside, right? The front door. How does the front door open generally? It opens
Inside.
inward, right? You're walking into a room, you open the doors inward. That's the halachic definition, right? You can argue, you say, oh, sometimes you open it. Yeah, that's fine. This is what halakha says. When you're when you're in a home itself, not talking about the front door. The front door, no matter how, even if you have a front door that opens outwards, that's okay. You always do on the right side of coming in because it's clearly the front door. This is where you enter into the house. But within the house itself, you always look at where the hinges are. The hinges are on the outside, so then it's meant to exit. So you do it on the right of the exiting. If the hinges are in the inside, and you open the door inward, then you do it from the right of entering that.
Again, like at the shul, you have the dining room and then into the foyer. The doors go towards the foyer.
Exactly. So in the shul here in Metairie, so the two doors that open up into the foyer, into the lobby, the mezuzah should be, I believe it is, on the right of exiting the social hall. Even though this is where many people come into the room because the doors open that way. Whatever, all the doors in the shul, I'm not sure right now exactly each door how it opens, but the kitchen doors and the office doors and the kids' room, right? All these doors, however they open, that's the way you that's the direction. Now, so here he gives a little qualifies this, which is something which is not our custom. This is what he says over here. This is only if the two homes or two rooms in our case are equal in its use. However, if one of them is where you use mainly much more permanent use, and the other one is just a temporary place, so then we say you don't go after. We don't rely on this on the direction of the door, and you would put the mezuzah on the right of walking into the main room. This is what the Kitzur says. So if you have one main room, you have a little closet, you have another hallway that you don't really use. It happens to be that the doors open, inwards, outwards, whatever. So right, you still go by what's the main use. This is what the Kitzur says. It happens to be that the Minach Chabad, the Rebbe writes clearly that we follow Heker Tzir to the extreme. As long as it's not the front door, the main door, the main entrance, any other door in the home or the building, we follow Heker Tzir. Even if it doesn't really make any sense. Sometimes you feel like you're going into like a really side room over here, right? And like this is the main room, right? So of course you're going in from the side room into the main room. No, even if there's no other entrance, right? Let's say you have a big main room, and all the doors are always going out. So in every exit, there's no entrance; there's only exits. We still do that. We still put a mezuzah as if you're exiting in every direction, because if they all have that Heker Tzir, we always follow Heker Tzir. The question with Heker Tzir is what happens if there's a side entrance? So it's an entrance from the outside. So do you also follow Heker Tzir over there? And I think the answer is yes. We generally do follow Heker Tzir. So a side door, you would do it like an exit. Yeah.
So at the shul, you would enter into the shul on that side door, but it's actually on the left entering in,
right?
Because it swings out.
Right. So that's what I believe. Now with this, it's questionable. Meaning, it's not so clear cut. There are different ways of understanding some of the letters that the Rebbe wrote about this. The Rebbe once answered something. Someone said, let's say I have a bedroom, and there's only one or a closet, right? There's only one entrance, and the doors, let's say, the doors open in, right, outwards. So you're saying that this is an entrance. It's not an exit, right? Entrance to the big room from the small room. But the question is, how do I get into the small room? There's no other entrance to the small room. You're following, Avram? So let's say, here, the closet's in shul, right? That side storage off the menu, right? They swing out. Okay, so the mezuzah, I'm not sure where the mezuzah is, but according to this, the mezuzah should be on the right, entering the main shul, right? From the closet to the main shul. That's where you put the mezuzah. But wait, how do you get into the closet? You have to first enter the closet, so it should be on the right side, right? So even though the doors are open, but if you have numerous exits and entrances, that's one thing. But this is no other way, right? So that's another question. Do you follow Heketzir in this scenario when there's no other way? So the Rebbe once wrote in a letter, like, I don't care how they get into it. Maybe they'll climb through a window, right? That was the expression used. And there's a lot of debate. What does that mean? Which means, do we take that literally? That there has to be an option. There has to be a way of entering into that room, even through a window. But there has to be at least a window. So if there's a window in the room, even if it's a second floor, okay, in theory, there is an option. There is a way to get in. You could have climbed through the window. So then we follow Heketzir. But if there's no window, there's literally no way to get into this room other than this entrance, then perhaps you don't follow Heketzir. You following along with me? Right, so going back to the scenario of the storage room in shul, where there is no window, so there, perhaps, even though the doors open up to the shul, we would still consider this an entrance to the storage and not an entrance to the shul. That's if you take this understanding of the letter. Some of the rabbis, they say, no, the rabbi was just saying like throwing out a scenario, but it doesn't mean literally. I mean, even if there is no window, we still follow Heketzir. So there is different opinions even amongst Chabad rabbis exactly how to interpret the exact min of Chabad. So I'm sure you'll find. I'm not sure what we did. I'm not sure what Rabbi Nemes did. I'm sure he looked into it when he originally put up the mezuzahs.
Because I do have a question. So the side entrance follows what we've been talking about, going by the hinges side, and the front entrance to the lobby, the doors swing out. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Swing outwards. Yeah.
Yeah, but the mezuzah's on the right.
Right, facing which right? Entering the shul.
Entering the shul.
But I think with the door swinging in and out.
No, they don't. Not those doors. There's you sure the mezuzah is
Yeah, they're all the way.
Yeah, because you have to kind of do that.
coming into the shul?
Right.
Because I open the door, and
Sorry. Yeah, I'm opening the door towards the.
Wow. And once it was-
if I remember correctly.
I don't know. I do know that we had a cipher here a few years ago, and he went around and he gave some comments. Maybe we changed a few things, but the truth is, we have to look at it. And I know when Rabbi Nemes put it up, he did look into some of the question that he put it wherever he put it. But I guess we could always revisit those mezuzahs. I don't remember that offhand, but that is the general idea of this idea of Heker Tzir. So again, just to summarize, we generally follow Heker Tzir other than the main entrance. We follow Heker Tzir. The question is, does it also apply where there is no other way to get into a room? There's even no window. That's one question. And then there's also about side entrances. Do we say Heker Tzir also by a side entrance, which I'm pretty sure that we do say Heker Tzir with a side entrance. Okay. Another question is, what happens when there is no door, right? Like today in our homes, many of the doors, especially on the main floor of a home, don't have actual doors. There's only doorways, right? Like all around here, right? And most homes don't have doors, and from room to room. So how do we know which is the entrance, which is the exit, right? So there, I believe we do follow this last section of Halacha 4, where is the main, so if the dining room is where we spend more time than the living room, so then we'll be entering into the dining room. Now again, sometimes it's really like the 50-50. I mean, how are you supposed to determine which way? So then you kind of just figure out, you assume which way you generally walk. You walk through this way, that way. But that's a general idea. Where's the Iker Tashmish? Where do you spend most of your time? And then where you're walking into those rooms. So usually like the main rooms, we consider it entering into those rooms.
So like for example, you have a larger entrance here, whereas you have smaller here. So you could say that this would be, the kitchen would be the entrance for this door, and
that's possible. Yeah.
This the way would be the.
Yeah.
Is that something?
That's something most definitely that we look into that. Yeah, because the reason why it's larger is because you kind of.
Because that
the traffic kind of flows this way. Yeah.
Not the kitchen.
Exactly. Okay. So we'll go a little further, and I think next week I want to focus more on the exact different types of doorposts. And today's homes, there's different. Have one doorpost in a wall, right? And so that's where it gets a little complicated. And I want to get also that book that has block diagrams. So it makes it a little easier to understand. But so I want to kind of finish the sermon, and I want to skip 11 and 12, maybe and 13 as well, kind of, and get back to next week. That's where it kind of mentions briefly. Oh, see, I see over there you do have pictures. Okay, but now we're up to Halacha 5. Where on the doorpost do you post the mezuzah? So if you split the doorpost, the height of the doorpost is 3, so it's the beginning of the top third. If you do it higher than that, it's not kosher. Sorry, if you do it higher than that, it is kosher as long as it's not within a tefach of the mashkir. Lashra is what's it called again?
Lentil.
The lentil. So if it's within, 3 inches or so from the lentil, then it's not kosher. But if it's anywhere between the bottom third, the bottom of the top third, and a tefach lower than the lentil, it's kosher. But ideally, it should be the bottom of the third. Now, what happens if you have a very tall door? You have a very tall doorway. I'm saying, right? Sometimes a doorway, if usually our roofs, if our ceilings are 8 feet, so our doorway is, it can be 7 feet, 6.5 feet. But what if we have a taller, 10-foot ceiling or something? Beautiful places, a hall, really high. So the bottom of the top third could be quite high. You can't reach it. You can't see it. So there we say that we do it. We can do it below the top third. We do it like the height of the average shoulder. I'm not sure what that is. 5.5 feet or something like that. It's 5 feet. So that's where we do it. And then that kind of became the minhag. Sometimes you don't really find mezuzahs very high up because if it's too high. What?
They have one at the Kotel when you're going through the gate, and it's on the right-hand side of the gates to go in.
Yeah.
And the gates are like 12 feet tall. So the mezuzah, you got to kind of really reach high to touch.
High. Yeah. So that's what it's based on, because it has to be here to do the bottom third. But our custom is that if it's higher, we kind of lower it below the bottom third.
So okay to have 2 mezuzahs?
No, we do 1 mezuzah. Okay. Because you also, the idea of mezuzah, as you see later, is that a person should pass the mezuzah and remember Hashem. It's almost like the sukkah. It's so high you don't see the schach, right? The mezuzah is so high, it's kosher. But the idea is you should really encounter the mezuzah and you should remember Hashem. So therefore, we do put it a little lower, up until like the height of a person's shoulder. Okay. However, if it's a regular size doorway and doing it beneath the top third is lower than the average person's shoulder, then it is not considered, it's not kosher, and you have to remove it and put it back up higher with a bracha. Meaning, when you do it again for the first time, it's not considered kosher mezuzah. Okay, halacha 6. Ketzat koiva. How do you put up the mezuzah? The mezuzah was one of those things where the pasuk itself is like it's written in code, right? You should write them on the doorpost of your home and on your gate, right? Write what, where, when, how, right? How does this mean the mezuzah that we have today? This is one of the typical examples given for the idea of the Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah. That the oral tradition explained and brought all the details that we have with the mezuzah. Because the Sadducees or the other groups that didn't believe in the oral Torah, how did they do mezuzah? They actually would take, they used to actually write the mezuzah on the doorpost. Right? What's the mezuzah? Shema and V'haya, those two parshas. Instead of writing on parchment, it doesn't say in the Torah to write on parchment. So you should write it on the doorpost. They took it very literal. They actually used to write on the doorpost the mezuzah, right? But we obviously know that that's not what the Torah meant, because we have the Torah Sheba'al Peh, Halacha L'Moshe B'Sinai, that you write it on parchment. You write the Shema and V'haya. Those two parshas has to be written like you write tefillin, and Torah has to be written properly, has to be written kosher, and you write it on parchment, and then you have to roll up the parchment, and you roll it from the end to the beginning, which means that the Shema, like the right side of the mezuzah, is at the opening of the mezuzah. When you open it, that's the first thing you see. And you put it into a tube or any other thing, basically a case, as we call it today, right? You don't put the actual parchment alone. You put the case, and you bang it with nails on the doorpost. Now, in every word over here, there's the details over here. So first of all, you put it into a case. You know the story that someone came to someone's home to check the mezuzahs, and he opened up the case and saw that it was empty. So what happened to the little scroll that was rolled up? So, the instructions, I was able to put it up on my own. So unfortunately, no, I hope it's a joke. Even if it didn't actually happen, unfortunately, these types of stories happen. I get calls all the time, and you meet people. When you tell many people, we tell them on mezuzah, the first thing that comes to mind is the mezuzah case.
Yeah.
We get called all the time. Do you sell mezuzahs? So in the beginning, I just say, yeah, we have this scroll and that scroll. Then I realized they're not looking for the scroll; they're looking for the mezuzah case. When they say I want to buy a mezuzah, they want to buy the case. And you buy a design case, you buy a nicer case, a wooden case, a glass case, a metal case, right? So now I tell them, you go to kosher kitchen, you can get a case, right? But it's important that people should realize that the mezuzah case is a beautiful thing. You're supposed to have a beautiful case, right? It's a nice thing. It's a nice mitzvah. But that is secondary. The mitzvah is the mezuzah itself. You want to have a beautiful cloth, a beautiful parchment, a beautiful ksav, a beautiful handwriting, and if you're written by a proper God-fearing Jew, right? You want to make sure that's a lechatchila, beautiful mezuzah. The case is okay. You have a nice mezuzah. You want to have a nice case as well, right? But so that's the main part of the mezuzah. But that's obvious to us. The point is, nevertheless, we don't actually put the mezuzah itself on the wall. We're supposed to put it into a case. Why a case? Maybe that's considered more respectful. That the mezuzah itself is not just hanging on the wall. Also probably protects it from the elements and it shouldn't become puzzle as fast, shouldn't fade or anything like that. Now, if you put it into something that protects it, there are different minhagim, different customs of what type of case should we use. Some people specifically try to find the case that is transparent, that you're actually able to see the mezuzah. One of the issues with having a case that you see the mezuzah is that you have to act with a proper derech, the proper respect in front of the mezuzah, because it's open, right? So, for example, the clear tube, right? So, therefore, if there's a place, if you want to change a baby's diaper, you shouldn't be changing the baby's diaper in front of a transparent mezuzah. It's like an open book. It's like an open Sefer Torah, right? It's like an open chumash, right? You don't change a thing while you have an open Sefer, right? So therefore, some people have a specifically a transparent because they want to see the mezuzah, right? But then you got to be careful with it. And very importantly, it's a real halacha for those who are married, where the mezuzah to the bedroom of a married couple, if it's in a way where the mezuzah, when you close the door, the mezuzah is on the other side of the door, it's not a problem. If it's the doorway, I guess, opens outward, where the mezuzah is on the inside of the bedroom, and it's transparent, that's problematic. You actually have to cover it, right? So, so that's one issue with having it transparent. So some people specifically would do it in other rooms of their house, but you got to be careful to, live up to it if you do that. So another option is obviously to do it like the mezuzahs that we have, where it's not transparent, where it's covered. It's the mezuzah that we give, the cases that we give out is those the plastic mezuzah cases, which is transparent, kind of see the mezuzah through. So those cases, we should keep in mind what the way we act in front of it. Other hand, you can buy the other mezuzahs that are not see-through. They're covered. Some people specifically don't use metal or other things like that. But again, this is all customs, which I'm not so clear myself exactly if there's anything specific. I don't know. I guess they don't want to have such a hefsek separation between the mezuzah and the home. But that's not halacha. I mean, there are many mezuzahs that you could buy in different type of cases. But that was just an interesting thing about it being transparent, just to keep in mind. Meaning it is mentioned clearly in regards to a married couple's bedroom, in regards to the mezuzah being transparent. Yeah. It also mentions here that you should affix the mezuzah with nails, and that is also because you have to affix it. You have to make sure it's part of your wall, your doorpost, right? So you can't hang it. Oh, I have a little chain for my mezuzah. I have a little nail. I'll hang it on the chain. It's very nice, but it's not the mitzvah. It has to be sturdy. It has to be, strong, attached. And therefore,
can you use liquid nails?
So nails, it says here clearly, use nails. Or
liquid nails.
The question is about either liquid nails or like what we have, like the double-sided adhesive, like the double-sided tape. So that is kosher. We obviously use it. We have to make sure it's strong. Liquid nails, same thing. It's fine. It has to be strong. The point is, it can't be loose. That's the main thing. If it's loose, it's hanging, where you kind of shake it and it's not attached to the wall, that's the problem. So nails is obviously what they used to do. It's the strongest way to do it. But today you have other ways. The point is, it has to be strong, and that's the main thing. Yeah. And therefore also it says you shouldn't, if you're doing nails, for example, you shouldn't do. Let's say I just nailed in the top of the mezuzah, not the bottom. That's considered hanging. It has to be top and bottom. So it's strong, it's sturdy. Okay, and how do we do it? We do it balachim. We do it on the angle. We know that there are two opinions in the Gemara, whether it should be vertical or horizontal. How do we place the mezuzah? So the halacha is that you do it vertical. That's the halacha. However, we try to also kind of also do a little bit on the slant to cover both opinions. And which direction do we slant it? So the head, the top of it, goes inwards. So if I'm putting it towards the entrance, right? Yeah. Top goes inwards, and the bottom is a little bit outwards. If there's no place on the very, very thin doorway, and there's no doorpost, there's no space to make it balance, to make it on the slants, then you just do it completely vertical, and that is totally fine. It's better to put it vertical on the doorpost than to not put it on the doorpost and put it slanted right behind the doorpost. Oh, I want to do it slanted. No, the best thing is to do it on the doorpost itself. And it says that what I just mentioned earlier, that if you do not, fix it properly, you just hung it, it's possible. Therefore, you have to make sure that you have nails on the top and the bottom of the mezuzah case, so it should not be considered hanging. Okay, halacha 7. If you have any questions or whatever, we could discuss. Let's go halacha 7. Before we establish that we have fixed the mezuzah, we make the bracha. And if you are fixing numerous mezuzahs, you just make a bracha on one of them, and then you do all of them. To speak in between. Exactly. If a mezuzah fell on its own, now you are going to re-fix it. Then you have to make a new bracha. However, if you removed it because you wanted to check it, then you do not. There's a suffix whether you make a new bracha, and we already know the rule. Suffix bracha is lahakil. Therefore, we do not have to make a new bracha. I think it's similar to what we said about talis, that if you took it off with that kavanah, so then it kind of it's not considered a real hefsek because it's not really a real interruption because you took it off and having in mind to replace it. But if it fell on its own, so there was no kavanah when it was removed, so then you have to make a new bracha. Okay, halacha ches, halacha 8. There are certain doorways that there's a small door next to the large door. And the idea of the small door is that you can kind of use it regularly in and out. And the large door you only open on occasion. Oh, now it's the formal, we open the big gate. But regularly we use the small door because, however, since there are two separate doors and they're both being used, therefore each of them are obligated in their own mezuzah. By the way, I'm not sure if it mentions it over here. That same thing will apply. That's the thing about the kitchen and shul, where it's two doors, but there's actually a doorpost in between. And each door is functioning on its own. So each of those doorways are considered its own doorway, and they need its own mezuzah. And with the shul's kitchen is that each door comes out a different direction. So the mezuzahs are on the opposite sides because one's entrance and one's exit. Okay.
Shul is a nice case study for
right. Well, next week we'll discuss some real funny cases, like especially with like modern homes, with funny doorways, and sometimes you'll find mezuzahs like low down or up. It's interesting. It's very interesting. I think we'll leave that for next week. Oh, so what happens if you don't want to put it on the actual doorpost? Let's learn halacha 9 in a place that there's a person is concerned that maybe they're going to steal the mezuzah from the doorpost. So there's numerous options. Option number 1 is to kind of cut out in the doorpost a little area, a little space to put the mezuzah in the doorpost. You don't maybe see it from the distance, so maybe that way it's not going to be stolen. However, you have to make sure not to cut out a deep space. If it's more than if it's a tefach or more, tefach which is about 3 inches, then it's not. That's a problem because then you're not affixing the mezuzah on your doorpost, but you're affixing it in your doorpost. That's not the mitzvah. So if it's less than a tefach, then it's still considered on the doorpost and not in the doorpost, and therefore it is kosher. However, also you have to make sure that even if you're doing it less than a tefach, you still have to make sure it's not fully in, that some of it is noticeable or at least sticking out a little bit outside of the doorpost. If you have a mezuzah and you put it 2.5 inches and the whole mezuzah is 1 inch, so you don't really see it outside of the doorpost. Again, it's not then it's not al mezuzah besecha, and it's problematic. If that's not an option, if you can't cut out a space within the doorpost, then shas hatchak, this is like a real video of it, an impressing situation. What you could do is you could do it inside, not on the doorpost, but on the inside part of the doorpost. So like this, people won't see it, so it's more safe. So it is still kosher. However, if you are doing that, you want to make sure, first of all, that it is on the doorpost itself. Meaning, even if it's the inside area of the doorpost, but it's not on the wall, and it's also within the tefach. So if you have a doorpost, this is the outside, this is the inside. You do it right on the inside, within 3 inches, right near the doorpost. So that is not l'chatchila, it's a real b'diavad. But if someone is either very concerned about having mezuzah out there, or maybe there is literally no space, sometimes they have a very thin glass doorpost where there's literally nothing to hang it on. Or maybe sometimes you have with the door closes and there is no doorpost, there's no space between the door and there's no way to put the mezuzah. Right? The door takes up the entire doorpost, so you can't put a mezuzah there. There's no space, and then you can put it right on the inside, as we have in shul. By the way, very good. We have a good study, right? We haven't seen it for 2 years now, but the wall, the movable wall, we have in the social hall, right? So there's a door, right? So where's the mezuzah on that door? You can't put it in the doorpost. It's on the outside. It should really be the inside, but it's on the outside from the social hall.
No, it's on the shul side.
It's on the shul side? There you go. Okay, so on the shul side, basically, because there's no door plane, the door shuts and it takes the whole space. So you can do it right there within the tefach. Okay. Halacha 10. What's the minimum size of a room that is obligated in a mezuzah? It has to, the minimum size is 4 amas by 4 amas, which is roughly 6 feet by 6 feet.
Mhm.
If there is less than 4 amas by 4 amas, then it's
You
not
don't need
obligated in a mezuzah. Now, what happens if you have the same square footage? What's 6 feet by 6 feet? What's the square footage? What's 6 by 6? 36. You have a 36 square foot room, but it's not 6 by 6. It's whatever it is, whatever the measurement is, right? It's long and narrow, or whatever it is, right?
Go by square footage.
So you have the same square footage, but not 6 by 6, not 4 amas by 4 amas in each direction. So then there's a machlokes, if it's still obligated, and it seems like the Alter Rebbe follows the opinion that it is not obligated in a mezuzah. Now, the Alter Rebbe does not have hilchos mezuzah, but from the different times that the Alter Rebbe does talk about eruv, there's different places that the Alter Rebbe does mention something about this same category or status. Seemingly, we could learn from other places that the Alter Rebbe sides with the opinion that you are not obligated. It actually has to be 6 feet by 6 feet, 4 amas by 4 amas in each direction. Obviously, it can be larger. No more than the minimum. If it's the same square footage, we still put up a mezuzah. I believe that's what I heard some Rabbanim Paskin. We still put up a mezuzah without a bracha, but it's not really obligated in a mezuzah. So if you have some walk-in closets or things like that, that maybe it may have the square footage. It doesn't have the square footage. I'm sure you don't need mezuzah. Maybe if it does have the square footage, but it's not 6 feet in each direction, so then you don't make a bracha. Okay, we're going to skip 11 and 12. We'll go to 14. A home, a place that's not really used permanently, it's also putter. For example, a sukkah. You have a sukkah, you have a door, perhaps to the sukkah. But we don't put up a mezuzah in the sukkah because it's not there permanently, it's only there temporarily. Same thing if you put up a store or whatever, you put up a shed, whatever. If you have something for the days of the marketplace, whatever it is, you have a show, you put up something that maybe that's a booth that has maybe the same size and has a doorpost or whatever. You still don't have to do it if it's not a permanent place.
Well, how long do you wait if it stays there and it could go on for years and years? Do you make a decision to do it then?
Is it permanent or is it not permanent? Like you're saying, if you have a sukkah that's up all year round?
Well, it could be a shed, say not a sukkah. It could be a shed. And you say, well, it's temporary, but it goes on a few years, and what is temporary?
A shed is not necessarily temporary.
I think what he's trying to say is you had in mind from the beginning that it would be temporary, but it ends up being there.
So if it ends up being there long term, then you should probably put up a mezuzah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the other question was, when would that be? Like, would it be a year?
Whenever it is, whenever you decide this is a permanent thing.
Yeah.
Halacha 16. We're gonna skip 15. Beis Shar. What's a Beis Shar? A small home, a small little room that is near the gate of a yard. That the shomer, the officer, the guard, it sits there. So it's a little booth. What's it called? A guardhouse. Okay. or a mirpeses. What's a mirpeses? Like I say it,
Balcony.
a balcony or a garden. All these places are patur from mezuzah because it's not a place that you live in.
Corral, it is a garden, a corral.
Oh, now so a garden that has a doorway is patur from mezuzah. However, what happens if through the garden you go into your home and your home is chayav in a mezuzah? So then the garden, the doorway to the garden is also going to be obligated in a mezuzah. Now, you still need a doorpost. So the doors to our garden generally don't have a lintel, right? Don't have two doorposts. In theory, if they had two doorposts and a lintel, you might be obligated in a mezuzah.
Like
So
sometimes they have like those garden archways, right?
Right. You gotta look into that. No, yeah, something you gotta look into, yes.
Wait, by that logic, so why are stores time?
Talk about
Because
it.
it's permanent. The person's there all the time. The person spends time there all the time. Yeah. And therefore, the gateways to our yards or our mavoi, some of it like a little passageway, or even the doors to a city, they are all obligated in a mezuzah. Why? Because through this passageway, you go into homes that are obligated in a mezuzah.
With a fence.
And therefore, even if you have
You gotta
10
have top
homes,
lintel.
and each one is open to the
You gotta have
next,
doorpost, but you gotta have a
Oh.
lintel.
and you kind of go through each of these homes to get to the 10th. But because you're going through all these homes are obligated in the mezuzah because you got to go through them to get to the home that you're actually living in. So any room that through this room you go to the next room, so even if this room technically is not obligated in the mezuzah, because you go through this room to get to that room and it's all connected, so therefore this room also is obligated in the mezuzah. So the case of the yard is that the yard itself, the gate to the yard, you're not obligated in the mezuzah. However, but through the yard you're going to the home. Therefore, the yard is also obligated in the mezuzah. However, some opinions differ with this, and therefore we do it without a bracha. What I'm not sure about is if does this only apply if you are meant to go through the yard to get into the home, like a backyard. Does this apply to a backyard? Like if it's a front yard, some people even to get into their home, you have to go through a gate, and if that gate has a lintel and it has two posts, and I'm going through this gate to get into the home. I'm passing, but the gate is really a gate on the property, is a gate on the yard. So then, okay, you gotta put a mezuzah on the gate because through the gate I gotta go to my home, which is obligated in mezuzah. But what if it's a backyard? And yeah, technically I could go through the backyard into my home, but I generally go through the main entrance. I don't need to go through the yard. I don't need to go through this fence to get to my home. Does that still apply? It doesn't specify here, so that's what I need to get back to. Remind me next week to get back to that.
So like on a baseball chain link fence, they'll have this hot like that goes behind the batter, and so you will have that chain link fence gate door with it's completely like with a lintel, but it's all chain link. Like if you had like a Jewish ball field,
Right.
would that be something?
Is there any room?
No, it's just a gate into a field.
Like the field is not obligated in mezuzah. It's only obligated if through the field you're going into a home. So any
If it's like a big garden.
So wait, what about the mezuzahs and the gates like Yerushalayim? You know,
because you're going through the gates to go into the city where it has homes in it. I can't go into the home without going through the gate. I can't get into someone's house from outside of Yerushalayim without going through the gates into the city.
I see.
So any room or passageway that I need to get into the home, which is obligated in the mezuzah, those places also need a mezuzah, but I need to get it. So my question was, if I don't have to go through that place,
I mean, just an example I remember at Shulchan Bar Oregon. they had a side gate to get into the shul. I mean, to get into the property, to get into the shul, and for sure that and that did have a system.
Yeah.
From what I remember.
I got a question. If you have an ornamental gate with a lintel with 2 doorposts, and it's an apartment complex, and you're Jewish, but the tenants are not Jewish, do you need a mezuzah?
Great question. So it doesn't mention over here. I'm looking at it here, but the general rule is, oh yeah. Yeah, the rule is that the obligation is for the renter, not the owner.
Oh, really? Even a common area?
So if I own a home, but a non-Jewish person is renting it from me, I don't need to put a mezuzah on the home. If the person is actually living there.
Gate going in.
Okay, so if I own like a large, built like a rich building with like many places, of course, their individual interests to their apartments. But what about the main halls?
So the main halls
lobby?
is yours, right? So you should put a mezuzah on the main halls. Yeah. So if you own a apartment complex, so that the doors to the building, the doors to the offices, the door to all the common places should have a mezuzah. But the doors to the individual apartments, or the renter, have to put up a mezuzah. Even if it's a Jewish renter, it's not your obligation; it's the renter's obligation.
Mhm.
It's their mitzvah. Yeah. Okay. Halacha 17. A bathhouse or a bursiki. A bursiki is a tannery or a mikvah. These are obviously a restroom. These places are patur from a mezuzah because it's not considered a respectful place. However, a barn, an animal barn, or a chicken coop, a place that you have a lot of birds, or a place that you store wheat, or wood, or a wine cellar, or other types of things. These places, if they're the right size, are chayav, are obligated in a mitzvah. However, that some people say that the patur, so obviously doesn't mention it clearly, but assuming you put it without a mezuzah, without bracha, what?
A chicken coop.
Chicken coop, why not?
Yeah.
Person spends time in a chicken coop. Obviously, if it's the right size, if it has a doorpost.
Okay.
Halacha 18, a place that the children are there often, and very often they're cleaning, they're washing, or they're not always doing very clean things over there. You should cover the mezuzah. Again, this is if the mezuzah is not covered on its own. But this is only if it happens temporarily, once in a while. However, if it's something that happens often, then you should not just rely on covering it. You should either not do it there, or have or take off the mezuzah, or it's easiest thing is to have a regular cover to the mezuzah. But like if a child is potty training a child, and this becomes their little restroom, it's like it's like a bathroom. You don't put a mezuzah over there. Halacha 19, a home or a yard that also a non-Jewish person is living there is patur from a mezuzah. This question comes up often when you have an intermarried couple. So are they obligated in a mezuzah, right? So halacha is that if a non-Jewish person is also living there, you're patur from mezuzah. We put it up, obviously, we don't make a bracha. Now this is very one line over here, but in other places I believe it discusses whether it's the husband, whether it's the wife, who owns the home. What if the wife, let's say the wife is Jewish, she owns the home. Either she fully owns the home and just she has someone non-Jewish living with her, or she's 50-50. She's also signed on the mortgage on the lease. Right, so there maybe it's a little different. Maybe there is obligated in a mezuzah, but either way, you definitely encourage them to put up a mezuzah, but we don't make a bracha on the mezuzah in their home. We skip 20. 21. Someone who rents a home in Chutz La'aretz outside of Eretz Yisrael. So what we do is for the first 30 days, we don't put up a mezuzah. After that, we put up a mezuzah. And this is because in Eretz Yisrael, even in the moment, right away, there's a mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael. So even the first day, you already have a mitzvah, so you put up a mezuzah. And in Chutz La'aretz, we wait for the 30 days. Our minhag is that for the first 30 days, this is not only for renting, also for buying. For the first 30 days, I'm making sure this is just buying. When you rent, first 30 days, we put up a mezuzah. And after 30, and we don't make a bracha. After 30 days, we replace at least one of them with a nicer mezuzah. And then we make the bracha on the nicer mezuzah.
So just one mezuzah.
That we replace. Yeah.
But you would put all the other
right away. I will put up mezuzahs on all the doorways. Out of bracha. After 30, and again, this is if you rent. The 30 days, to replace one and put up a nicer one. I think if you're buying it, different. You bought it.
So my next question is, when you convert, is this all like plans?
I don't think you wait 30 days if you own the house. Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah. Yeah. The idea is for 30 days, it's not really yours yet. Right? Well, what's considered permanent? 30 days. So before 30 days, we don't make them. We don't make them rough. So really, you just not have mezuzahs for 30 days and just put up your mezuzahs. But we don't want to live in a house for 30 days and have mezuzahs. That's why we put up the mezuzahs, and then we kind of replace one of them with a nicer one.
So theoretically, can I still do that?
Wait, did you make a bracha yet? You made a bracha. You can't make a new bracha. Yeah.
So even if he gets a nicer mezuzah,
you're making a bracha on a nicer mezuzah. Here, you haven't made a bracha yet, right? So to make a bracha on a mezuzah that was up for 30 days is a little questionable. That's why you switch it with a new one. Yeah. Halacha 22. Someone who leaves a home, he has a mezuzahs up in his home. Do you take down your mezuzahs? So if another Jew is moving and you know this for sure, then it is forbidden. You're not supposed to take down your mezuzah. You leave it for the second one. Doesn't mean you have to give him a gift. You could charge him. If he doesn't want to buy it, he could move in and he could take it down. Maybe he has his own mezuzahs, but you cannot remove it.
So the agreement could be that he would have to once he.
Yeah. So what happens in like places like like places like New York where this happens all the time. So either people just buy off each other's mezuzahs. Hey, you're moving out. How much you pay? I'll just buy it. Right? Leave them up, and then it kind of goes through every couple of years. Someone moves out. They're all kind of buying it from each other. Or if someone wants to keep it really, well, it keeps their mezuzahs, or the other guy doesn't want to buy it, has his own mezuzahs. You leave it up. When the guy moves in, he takes it down. But you don't take it down before another Jew moves in. Okay, Halacha 23 talks about the importance of the mitzvah. Chayiv Adam lihizaher ma'od b'mitzvah. The person has to be very careful with the mitzvah of mezuzah because it is a obligation. It's obligation for everyone and constantly, all the time. It's not like certain times, right? Men and women, everyone has to do this mitzvah because it's not as time bound. It's always. And every time a person goes in, enters the room, leaves the room, he encounters, he sees the Eibishter Hashem, and Hashem is the unity, Hashem's name, and he's going to remember Hashem's love, and he's going to obviously wake up right away, and he's not going to waste time knowing that Hashem is always watching him. And he's going to know that there's nothing that is standing other than Hashem himself, who always knows him. Hashem knowledge is everywhere. And he's going to also help him go in the proper and the straight way. And there, our rabbis teach us that whoever has tefillin on his head and on his arm, tzitzis on his garments, a mezuzah on his door, he is like promised that he's not going to sin. Because he has so many reminders that he shouldn't sin. And these are all these angels that are protecting him and saving him from sinning. It says in the Pasuk, Choyne Malach Hashem Savil Tireo Vayichal. Zal tell us as well that for the sin of mezuzah, a person's children, young children, will pass away. Whoever is will have a long life. It says in the pasuk, saying in the Shema, you'll have long days, and the days of your children will be long. The person is scrupulous, careful with the mitzvah of mezuzah.
You gotta be careful if you don't do that. You could cause your
It's kind of
the
scary,
children.
right? Because the mezuzah is there to remind us of Hashem's oneness. Therefore, when the person leaves the door of his home, and also when he comes in, he should kiss the mezuzah. A person should not put his hand on the mezuzah itself. But you should be careful that there should be some type of glass, some type of covering on Hashem's name. When the person leaves his home, he puts his hand on the mezuzah, he should say the pasuk, Hashem, Hashem, Tzidiyah, Hashem, you should say something. Guard me. It's not actually saying this, but this is something people say.
No, but you're not actually touching it.
Not to actually kiss the mezuzah doesn't necessarily pass by, but to just to place your hand on the mezuzah, to notice it. Especially before you go to sleep, we actually everything on the mezuzah. Yeah, you have to remember there, watching us, etc. 25. A person's own mezuzah should be checked at least twice every 7 years, and the mezuzah of the congregation of the public should be checked once every 50 years. There's also a custom that people check their mezuzahs every month, once a year before Rosh Hashanah. Some people have a custom to check their mezuzahs whenever their wife is expecting, she's pregnant. They also check the mezuzah. And sometimes things are going wrong in the family, people are getting ill, losing their jobs, things are going wrong. Also, it's important to always check your mezuzahs. There are countless stories of people who had issues, and they checked the mezuzah and they saw that there was a problem in the mezuzah. Sometimes the problem can be directly related to their issue. So just recently, I heard of someone that had a problem with walking with their legs. They checked the mezuzah and the word "u'lelechtecha." You walk, there was an issue with or something issue with that. Person told me that they had a problem with this was trying to fill in the word Zacher to remember what's possible. A lot of these, countless stories. But either way, that is the kitzer of Halacha Mezuzah.
Got one question.
Yeah, yes, more than one question. But before that, Rob, next week, I want to focus on the different types of doorposts and doorways and rooms, and we'll discuss hopefully which ones are obligated and where we put those mezuzahs on those doors. Yes, Rob.
If somebody has another house, is a Jewish person, is he required to have mezuzahs on that house he's renting out?
Not if he's renting it out. No.
What if nobody's in?
The renter is obligated in the mezuzah, not the owner.
What if no one's in it at the time? Is he required to have a mezuzah, even after 30 days, have a mezuzah on it?
It's a good question. So it's vacant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it up for sale? Up for rent?
No, it's not for either one. It's
Like,
flooded. I need to fix it.
I understand what is, but like it's something if it's not inhabitable, then it's probably not obligated in a mezuzah. So if it's something that once you fix it up, you're able to live in it. It's probably going to be obligated in a mezuzah unless it's up for rent, like it's posted for rent, something else, like this place that you stay there from time to time. I would assume will be obligated in a mezuzah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We also didn't talk about what makes a mezuzah kosher. That could be a whole different discussion. Okay. we'll stop here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's see.
Take care.